up, dog. Everyone knows that one of the most awesome weapons in pro football is the wide retriever.
Excuse me, sir, but I believe you mean wide receiver, not wide retriever.
Yeah, thanks, Doc. We wide receivers are feared for our ability to throw a devastating block. Our sticky mitts serve us well on the end around. We wide receivers earn our lettuce by doing one thing, and that's catching passes. What you have to do is keep your eyeball on the ball. Your eye on the ball. Oh, well. That's more like it, Doc. But we shouldn't let a little success go to our heads. Because if aroused, the defenders may plant us like a carrot.
Oh, ow, ow, yes, I give up. Oh, help, ow, ooh, ouch.
Man, all of this proves what I've always said, Doc. It is more blessed to give than to receive.
Great horny toadies. Those football players are as tall as a redwood and wide as the Pecos. Yeah, no wonder they can't stay in bounds on that tiny little green acre. Always running into things. Sometimes running into things ain't all that bad. Pleased to make your acquaintance, ma'am. Hey, you gotta stop meeting like this. And of course, when them big galoots get plumb tuckered out of pushing and stampeding around, they can just find a nice place to sit and watch the hooting and the hollering. Yeah.
Reminiscent of the Amelia Earhart and Judge Crater cases, the National Football League has been hit recently by a wave of mysterious disappearances. At a news conference today, a somber Commissioner Pete Rozelle called in special NFL enforcers. We take you to the scene now.
Break 1-9. How about that old hound dog? Are you in there? You got that one old hound dog? You monkeys have an answer on this one? Oh, it's a Big 10-4. We're going to get a 20 on them. They're hard hits. It went 10-7. I'm going to back on out of here right now. This is that old white 9, around and down and westbound.
And the Lord said, let there be let there be rain. And lo and behold, rain came pouring down, turning all into a quagmire, and making a real mess of things. And the player said, Lord, we're we're pretty darn sad. And the Lord said, get thee some artifice. Get thee a rug. And the players did. But when they saw what they had wrought, they said, Lord, we're they're still pretty darn sad. So finally, the Lord said, get thee under the domes costing millions of dollars. And the taxpayers said, Lord, we sure are Lord, we've sure been given a big enough place to take a bath. The man behind the man is the coach. Historically, the coach has been known for his easy smile, bubbling laughter, and a chronic case of sour stomach. Some people say coaches don't know which end is up. During
During the week, the coach works closely with his men so that on Sunday, he may carefully choose the correct starting lineup.
Eeny, meeny, miny, moo. Out goes Y-O-U. Eeny, meeny, miny, moo. Out goes Y-O-U. Eeny, meeny, miny, moo. Out goes Y-O-U.
Ah, the beauty of these brave knights racing out to display their finely honed skills. Say, fellas, why don't you just pick it up? Hey, gang, just grasp the little devil in your hands. Pick it up, fella, please. Just pick it up. Oh, come on, pick it up. Pick it up, you dummies. Oh, well, forget it then. Coaching wizards communicate from the sidelines through a variety of intricate hand signals. But serious and secretive situations call for sideline talks.
So the chair's broken and the porridge is gone. Now wait till you hear this part.
One thing every coach loves is a practical joke. Just watch this. Hey, coach! Duck! Coach George Allen today announced the signing of a multi-million-dollar contract with Major Mander's Finger-Lickin' Chicken. Said Coach Allen, I'm a finger-licking chicken man from way back. Been eating it on the sidelines during games for years. Might even install the wishbone offense one of these days. At any rate, good luck, Coach. And how about some champagne to go with that chicken?
Things are always new and different at halftime of an NFL football game. In Green Bay, they had the Markuku Siamese twin sisters as halftime performers. Not to be outdone, the Falcons hired the Dombrisi Siamese sextuplets for their show. But no matter where you are, halftime is a circus. Best of all are halftime shows that involve well-conceived specialty acts.
Oh boy. Oh, sinekay, puro. Oh, hurts. Usan kay, usan kiro, usan isip, hey. Oh, ay, unsa ko na karwat. Oh, so usan isip, hey.
The backbone of a team is its spirit and unity. As one coach said, together we stand. Darn it. But what be more meaningful than two teammates on the field of strife, dedicated to lending a helping hand to one another? Ah, the sheer beauty and synchronized symmetry of it all. The heartbeat of most teams is a running back whose legs are worth a fortune and must therefore be carefully stretched and loosened before each game. For when his hole opens up, the running back must be ready to dart through with the strength of a bull, the grace of a hummingbird. As frequent six-point scorers, running backs are the men who started the current craze in unusual end zone behavior. And to think, it all began with a simple but effective rocket spike. Then coming right behind that was the reverse rocket spike. Then a young lady of superlative talent came up with a new idea in scoring celebrations and suffering succotash if it didn't succeed. Of course, it takes a little practice to get good at it. Some stars think they've taken this art form to its limit, but they're wrong. For every single Sunday, someone has a new way to say, yay, after a 7-point spree.
The proud foot belongs to the kicker, whose only concern when kicking is that his mates know who to block.
I got 50.
I got 76.
No,
Joe,
I
you
got
got
him.
45? Who's got
No,
30?
I got 45.
I got him. I got that guy.
Okay, all set?
Hey, who's got 45?
I thought you had 45.
I've got 57.
Who's got 48?
I got 48.
I got 88. Time out. In kicking, the center snap is crucial. And now, pay attention. The ally of every kicker is his sure-handed holder. If something goes wrong, the kicker has some options. Pay attention, boy. There's the double trick, kick, run, and kick real quick stick. Or there's the popular strawberry short kick. Pay attention, boy. When it comes to kicking, we punters display an affinity for ballet with our fluid movements that sing of gracefulness. It's up to the punter to save his team from bad field position.
Every team needs a good quarterback, the All-American boy next door, a clean-shaven lad whose leadership qualities become most evident in the huddle.
Maxie, you bring the chips and pretzels. Jiggy, you pick up the soda. And Bert, make sure you bring some good-looking girls this time. All right, my house at 3 sharp.
At the snap of the ball, the field general takes complete command. When passing, the signal caller has a variety of smooth drop-back procedures. Once back, there is no more effective weapon in pro football than a rifle shot forward pass. And of course, there is that favorite ploy of all quarterbacks, the sneaky, tricky quarterback draw. It is the huge, well-schooled blockers who paralyze the pass rush and keep the quarterback safe in the pocket. A quarterback on his own on the run is a quarterback on his own on his bum. Defenders are truly mean. and like to make people with the ball feel badly. That's why the quarterback should give the defense a big cake-eating grin and a friendly little wave. Who knows, he may make a good pal for life. But generally, defenders are lions on leashes, terribly anxious to wreak their havoc. Why, if it weren't for the rules, who knows what they would do? This, then, is Pro Football America, a game for men of substance and profound athletic talent. Working with these dedicated men are the wise coaches preaching organization, teamwork, and togetherness. These players are the gods of autumn, the best the nation has to offer, the titans of our time, men who play hard and clean and who overcome all obstacles that are placed before them. These stalwarts hold their emotions in check and accept victory with stoic dignity. These men believe football is bigger than life, so while joyful in triumph, it is in defeat that they convey the true meaning of the words honor and sportsmanship. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what to say. I'd like to thank everyone who made this moment possible, especially the people behind the scenes who get so little credit and certainly deserve it. I'd like to thank all of those people near and dear to me, like John Hentz. Thanks to my producer, Steve Sable. And above all, I like to thank my executive producer. Hey, boss, how'd you like the show?
That's all, folks.
Steve Garvey is up on
another good reason to shop Fred Meyer.
When the economy forces people to try to trim budgets and save money, there are sometimes schemes that surface in an attempt to take advantage of those looking for a good deal. One of the targets for budget cutting and sales gimmicks is the grocery cart, particularly as it rolls by the meat counter. Buying bulk beef is one way to save money, but unless you know what you're doing, you could get ripped off by the unscrupulous. In this first part of his special report, Randy Ripplinger shows what can happen to the unwary who try to play the beef game.
Americans love beef more than any other country does. Last year, the United States produced 22 trillion pounds of beef. That isn't enough, so we even import it. Americans spent $17 trillion on everything from fresh veal cutlets to Big Macs last year. But the price of beef has forced a reduction in consumption in the last 5 years.
The average American is eating 20% less beef now than he did in 1976, so some people in the beef business are trying a number of schemes to attract the remaining beef eaters.
Take the advertising of the Meat Masters Company, for example. By buying whole sections of beef, they advertise you pay as little as 99 cents per pound. There are free meat bonuses if you buy now, easy credit plans, and they'll even cut and trim your selection at no extra charge. Sound good? It's meant to. That's why people like Randy and Rochelle Irwin made an appointment to go buy some meat. That's right, the company insists that you have an appointment. So they took their ad in and asked for the stuff promoted at $1.24 a pound.
I had my ad with me, pointed out, no, he just wanted to get this hind quarter, full rib and plate. And he said, well, that's not going to make us any money. No, we're not going to make any money off that.
Yeah, they said it was a misprint.
It was the price that attracted the Irwins in the first place. But the Irwins walked out of the bulk beef store because they said they smelled something fishy.
The guy, at the end, the guy he was pretty upset when we left. You know, he was anybody to chase you out to the car, you know, to try and get you to get in there and get that meat when you know, we didn't want it. So I'd say at the end he was pretty upset.
A couple of atypical complaints, or is this type of business going on all over the beef industry? We decided neither was true when the Portland Better Business Bureau and the American Association of Meat Processors contacted us with similar stories about the same company.
So we sent John and Kathy Ricker, who agreed to help us with our investigation, into Meat Masters with $200 and told them to buy one of the advertised specials. It soon became apparent that Meat Masters didn't want to sell what it had advertised.
He showed us what they had and talked it all down, said it was, you know, really terrible meat, that it was lots of fat and a lot of waste, a lot of trim to throw away. And then he proceeded to tell us that we should buy this other meat that wasn't advertised. And then we finally told him we wanted just the meat that was advertised.
They kind of got mad.
What did he say?
They said, "You're not here to buy meat, you're just wasting my time." And then he left.
Then he went out and sent another guy in, and he went to us 2 or 3 more times trying to convince us to buy that meat.
Meat Masters showed their customers carcasses laden with fat and beef already trimmed with nothing but lean red meat showing, which the buyers were told would cost triple the price of the advertised special. But the Rickers stuck with the advertised meat, despite Meat Masters' attempt to deplore it.
Once we did buy it, though, they said we were getting the best meat. They said, "Oh, you'll tell everyone where you bought this meat. It's the best meat."
Then the Rickers were led to the cutting room where their order of 190 pounds of rib and chuck was cut to their specifications. Neither buyer, they admit, knows anything about cutting beef.
Did you know how to mark each piece, what it was?
They told us what to put on them.
The most popular word was soup bones.
190 pounds of beef, hanging weight, cost a total of $188.10. The Rickers were told their meat was yield 4 to 5, as the advertisement discloses. What they didn't know until the meat was cut is that the higher the yield, the more cutting loss there will be. To find out exactly what we ended up with, we took our purchase to a member of the Meat Processors Association. They and we were surprised. The Meat Masters ad said we would get rib steaks, club steaks, Delmonico steaks, rib roast, pot roast, barbecue ribs, and ground beef. The first thing we discovered is that we didn't get what was supposed to be in our order.
Okay, club steaks. We got club steaks?
Club steaks, you don't have any.
Delmonico. What's a Delmonico?
Yeah, I put them back in. Delmonico would be, that's down coming where the rib goes onto the T-bone.
Do we have Delmonicos here?
Don't have any of those.
A pot roast?
Yeah, we have one.
One pot roast?
1 3-pound 3-pound pot roast.
Shouldn't we get more of that out of there?
Approximately 50 to 60 pounds.
Right. A pot roast?
A pot roast, and you have 1 3-pound pot roast.
Our precious, precious pot roast.
That is about half of an arm cut pot roast. But on the normal arm cut pot roast, there's going to be this much more out here. We'll see, they whacked it off about there.
But on a little closer examination, we found more pot roast masquerading as something else.
What's that?
This is marked prime rib roast, and that is a blade cut. Isn't that a blade cut?
That's a blade cut.
That's a blade cut.
That isn't a prime rib roast at all. That's a pot roast labeled prime rib roast.
It's going to be a lot tougher.
As it turned out, there was one package marked prime rib roast that was a prime rib roast. Our butchers say it was poorly trimmed and was taken from the bad end of the prime rib. The meat cutters here say there was a lot missing from 190 pounds of rib and chuck, like 20 pounds of prime rib, 50 pounds of pot roast, and 15 pounds of ground beef. But there were some extras. We should have had only 10 pounds of soup bones maximum, but Meat Masters gave us 93.5 pounds, which weren't really soup bones.
That's more short ribs. They've thrown all the fat in. They haven't trimmed any fat off at all. They've just thrown it all in there and called it soup bone.
I don't think what you have here came off of one animal. I think what you have here, you went in to buy a chuck and a rib, and I think you have a lot of pieces from different animals that was given to you.
So what our $188 purchase got us was 30 pounds of usable beef. At grocery store prices, that should have cost $64. These type of business dealings are neither foreign to Meat Masters nor isolated to this store. The company faces federal indictments in Wyoming, and it is defending itself against a lawsuit in Oregon. Still, business goes on. In tomorrow's report, the legal action and Meat Masters' response. Randy Ripplinger reporting for Channel 2 News.
And Sales, Vancouver.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture says it has launched an agency-wide investigation of fraud in the bulk beef business. One of the firms under USDA scrutiny is a Beaverton store operating under the name Meat Masters. Federal charges against Meat Masters parallel some of the discoveries Channel 2 News made when making a beef buy with that company. Here is the second installment now of Randy Ripplinger's special report on the beef game.
John and Kathy Ricker cooperated with our investigation by making a beef purchase at the Meat Masters Beaverton store 2 weeks ago. They asked for the advertised special of rib and chuck sections at 99 cents a pound. They were shown fatty, unattractive beef, which Meat Masters compared to some leaner, higher-priced meat.
He showed us what they had and talked it all down, said it was, really terrible meat, and it was lots of fat and a lot of waste, a lot of trim to throw away. And then he proceeded to tell us that we should buy this other meat that wasn't advertised.
The Federal Trade Commission ruled in 1973 that it is unfair or deceptive trade practice to disparage advertised products by displaying meat to a customer which is fatty or otherwise repellent or unwholesome in appearance, and to represent it as the meat advertised in order to promote the purchase of other higher-priced meats. The Rickers walked out of Meat Masters with what was supposed to be 190 pounds of rib and chuck. But the American Association of Meat Processors tells us that no rib and chuck could weigh that much.
I don't think what you have here came off of one animal. I think what you have here, you went in to buy a chuck and a rib, and I think you have a lot of pieces from different animals that was given to you.
The Oregon Consumer Protection Division has sued Meat Masters president Larry Peterman, claiming he uses bait and switch and other tactics.
They have misdescribed various packages of meat as being halves or sides, when in fact they were larger and having more of undesirable cuts in them.
That case is moving slowly and has not yet come to trial. But the USDA put more teeth into its investigation of the firm in 3 Wyoming cities. A federal grand jury returned a 19-count indictment against Peterman, accusing him of deceptive sales and making false representations. The indictment lists 22 victims whom USDA claims Peterman defrauded by conspiracy. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Wyoming says Peterman and 8 accused co-conspirators fled the state, but have since been located and arraigned. We went back to Meat Masters in Beaverton to ask some questions about their advertising and sales tactics But when we approached the store, the normally busy front office was abandoned, except for one customer.
Where'd they go?
We located one employee who said the manager would return in a few minutes. We found other employees behind the building taking off their aprons.
And wanted to talk to you guys and give you a chance to tell your side of the story.
No, I wouldn't know nothing about it. I just cut meat.
You just cut meat?
I just wrap it.
When the other employee came out back, she refused to answer questions as well.
Could I talk to somebody in charge? When will be back?
We waited for the manager, somebody named Mark, to return, but his estimated arrival time kept getting later in the afternoon. Finally, one employee offered an explanation of why customers would take home bad cuts of meat.
Well, they're right here when we cut it and everything, you know, and they can tell us if they want to trim more or whatever.
I see. Do you think we can get pictures of the meat you have?
Huh?
Could we get pictures of the meat?
I can't authorize that.
Could she?
No. We got all kinds of appointments and stuff here right now, and
Okay.
we can't do you no good.
So we left for a while and came back later that afternoon in hopes that manager Mark could explain some of our cuts of meat. But now Mark was sick, and the malady was spreading to other employees.
Could one of your people who cuts meat explain it to us?
Our meat cutter isn't here.
That guy right over there says he cuts meat. He told me he cuts meat.
He's sick right now.
He's sick right now?
Ultimately, a Meatmasters official called from Salt Lake City. The man remained nameless and wouldn't answer questions over the phone, but he said the company president would fly to Portland for an interview. Despite our repeated attempts to arrange the interview, Larry Peterman, the Meatmasters president, couldn't be reached at his Utah headquarters. Utah agriculture officials say that he has operated there for 10 years, under 5 different store names, opening and closing every couple of years.
The USDA charges against Meatmasters in Wyoming will go to trial next week. The Oregon Attorney General's lawsuit has a trial date scheduled in December. Meanwhile, the company is still doing business here, has just reopened a store in Eugene, and is still operating in Utah and other states. Meantime, the USDA says its investigation is continuing as the beef game goes on.